Yeah, so we were thinking in terms of, I mean, at the end of the 100 years, I mean, you got agriculture, 2000 to 2025. The last 7 years to go collect the assets. I mean, $32 million profit. I mean, that's a wonderful thing. Yeah, I mean, give me the money back. You know, I mean, the taxpayers. I mean, why? I mean, what would you possibly need that for? What are you going to do? What did Christ say? The rust and the moth? But if you talk about, I mean, if you talk about unconditional, I hear you. It comes in promises. What do we all know? Is it unconditional when you go out there? And what do? You lay out, love one another, basically behave yourself, and then you can have this unconditional life of yours. No, I mean, I think no. I mean, it's just a matter of choice of people in the town or city, whether you get that or not, or for whatever reason. It might be you have some sort of electrical current that, you know, based on the food you eat or something else, based on your knowledge or experience, or just that you're much older and that, I mean, like for our county and city, they cut the funding and they asked all the, people without college education to retire at 52 years old. That's not going to be easy. If you do the program, right, the Justice Department safety features, I mean, it took me 19 years, I really didn't want to do it. I really didn't want to. But I did do it and then get a guaranteed check. How could that be? Like, you work, you pay taxes, and however that all works out, because that's a big mess. Some employees pay no tax. At the end of the year, they take all their taxes back. Lie about it, and then the next step is you pay twice. In one way or the other, you do. So, well, I would think this whole business of a man is going to save you would be, maybe DOD, galactic, with space creatures. I mean, you see it if you go out in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, you see it in the sky. Either that, or they change the lights on the aircraft with all the sand, all kinds of things that guys might be working on. In the UFO program. So, I mean, it's who would know? For us, it was just to get a home theater system and sit back and relax and behave yourself. Love one another, and then stay out of it. Not to get married, not to have relationships, and not to have children at this age, which is a good idea. I mean, just whatever it was, it just didn't work out. Which is probably your own fault. I mean, you're not blaming somebody else, are you? I mean, a lot of men would tell you just take anybody. What's the difference? Really? Is that it? Not for me. Not in the program we were in. It was it had to be a certain look, a certain appearance, or otherwise taboo. They only promote certain things, but it only lasted a short while. My spine was killing. I got hit by an 18-wheeler truck, and we did the job. But there's a serenade there. I mean, what orphan of Florida would? Why would I do that other than the man that lived at this house? I think the house was knocked down in installment. Then, he wanted half of my check. The old man, I mean, he couldn't get public support money. He lied, he cheated, he stole. And he ripped me off clean. And so does everybody else. I mean, what point is there to working? There is none. There is none. There's no reason to do so. You get a public support check, and that's it. And that 1/3 of the people, the Republican, Democrat, and undecided. I mean, the vote goes through. It's not over yet. They're still going to fight, and if they single you out, like we said, I mean, history is going to promise you that you don't have to do what the father said. Do what you want. That's if somebody lets you do what you want. I mean, are you infringing on somebody else's unconditional lifestyle? Right? All those things have to be thought about this. I mean, the people came over here and said, our people who lived and died in their microbiology landed in your country, and over time they evolved and are human beings again, or resurrection from the dead, with science and medicine and all kinds of things. that they should be allowed to worship God the way they want to and go back home to Jerusalem. You know, and so um, they said yes to it, but I had no intentions of saying yes to it. I mean, just to screw it all up. But when they saw the document, this is a great thing. Get on your hands and knees and worship me. That's it. I would think. Did you do that? That's it for you. I mean, your psyche. And so, what's the next step? You know, how you work, you don't get paid. Well, let's bisect that. And that's not true. Did it say United States of America on your Social Security card? It was 20 years, 15% taxes. When that whole system went bankrupt, at least in Howard County, and told us to invest the money, and then you might have something for retirement. And then back up retirement to 52 instead of 62, 65. And if it worked out, otherwise you don't have anything, So there was a mad rush to produce the computers to replace the old computers to issue checks. But if I remember Atlantis, that's all our fathers did was work at computer companies to make a machine to print checks. But that's what the U.S. military wanted. Those people were funded 150 years before we were born. They had all that already. I mean, you look at it now, all this time later. Many cities, there's 52,000 cities, as far as I remember, and there was only 4,000 actually received the carnival. Of men going out there working in the area who had knowledge. If you drive across country, you're gonna see a lot of stuff. You meet those people. It's not a funded area, so you can't expect them to know anything in particular, or even know what you're referring to or talking about. But if it's a funded area, it's a whole program, sort of like this YouTube.com. I mean, you put this from I think the last time I saw, they went up into San Francisco. You type in a button like, what are the TV shows you want to watch? And it sets it all up, into a pocket CD where you have like a photo album of your family. If your father or your mother took pictures, or you took pictures and you saved it in a photo album, a digital system where it can access everything in the Copyright Office. I mean, everything that somebody put in a copyright for, right? You write a book, you put it in the Copyright Office, a copy of it. So you can access anything, which ones you want to watch, or music or relaxation. Some of the stuff in some areas were hardly into drugs. You have the meditation tapes. I mean, it's changing your brain signal to imagine things, which some people find very, the home theater system, that's part of the home theater system, the telepathy system that we were working on since our program was canceled. But you could have a mom who don't want, talking computers in the house, and when I first started out in 1991 or 2. But more than that, I had gone to Washington, Seattle, and the waitress had handed me Epsom salt, and I ate it. It screwed up my mind bad. But before that, I was already hit with an 18-wheeler truck. It screwed my spine up. Seems okay now, but there's a lot of pain here, like a blood clot. So I that when I went to live with Michael and Phyllis in Florida, paid them $2,450 to raise me. Yeah, he was trying a lot of stuff out because this area was a storytelling town. It's a totally different way of thinking, So, I mean, are you a doctor? How do you know you got a blood clot? Stop talking. Well, he was accused of sleeping with some woman at a brothel. I don't even know the woman. Who is this woman? She's somebody from the East End. I mean, what she wants is $2,450 to raise you. Know nothing about it. Some wacko, and the old man too wants a check. How does he even know you? How do I know him? He came down the other street. I have a house a mile or two from here. He was chasing his dog who ran away, who went to the bathroom in the woods. So, and there was a bunch of carpenters here. You know how they are. Yeah, I did it. And the guy, he saw the whole thing. He invited me back to the house, and after a while, he taught me some sort of like get on a bus and go to Gainesville, Georgia, act in a movie. So, I mean, how do you do what you want to do when other people want you to do something else. And how does it work if they're going to force you to do something you don't want to do? And out of 100 people they do it to, 4 people like the job. They actually appreciate that they did it to them. The rest of the people are suffering. So this whole thing with Christ is a really interesting thing this weekend, where, and so like I'm doing something. I know you're not allowed to broadcast that in the city. I mean, I tried it once before in the other house I had a whole studio set up, an $8,000 system, but the county said no. When we had to, because there's a lot of us signed into developing the point server, and not the point server, the cash printing machine, but not in this county, not in this city, the retirees, the retirement place. Because, I mean, you got all these credit cards. You're not allowed here with credit cards. You got to pay it off, and you got to, everything's got to be bought cash, Now, what's cash? Ultimately, it comes down to the counterfeit dollar bill. I mean, is it or ain't it? I don't know. You go to the bank again. I mean, is it good? How do you know? And then they had come out with each county had their own type of bill. So you don't know. I mean, it's not been a problem. Hopefully, it wouldn't be a problem. I think they all understand that here. But I don't see how. Here's a man. I mean, probably for the first man decided on pyramid marketing, probably Jesus Christ, probably 20,000 years ago, like they taught us when we were kids, right? Corpus Christi. And then somebody popped up, lived, died, and born again in the Holy Land. I mean, I would think you just play that all up. It's probably not true. But there's about 1,000 false Christs. They're actually, from medicine science, they do know they have the same DNA and RNA that man had. So his body got born again. And what's your pleasure? Like, what do you want to listen to? But why is that? I mean, I would think they're young and they want to continue living and experience life and this whole thing. I mean, all that, I think that man figured out. I would see him nothing more than Joseph built a brothel at the corner streets. He sat there with the tax collection, borrowed the money, and started a ministry, and then paid it back. Like a lot of people do with the Small Business Administration, all kinds of things. But I mean, to say, believe on me. I mean, who are you? Do I know you? You're a speck of sand in a freaking desert. What do you have to? I mean, what, you got electrical, magical current? What I mean? Well, I don't think you can do with medicine science. And that's what we were trying to do. Along with telepathy, we were looking for work. We're going to work on something that we knew that you were not going, at least according to the West Coast, you get a public support check based on what your work was and the taxes you paid and your investments you made, and then you work on this. I mean, who can sit at home and do nothing all day long? And just work on something that got a handle on. But that's a lot of military guys doing stuff at the end of a program, and the whole area going back to cheating, lying, and stealing. I mean, there's no funding. I mean, you can't blame them. They were calling cops. Is this going to be okay? Before you do it. So, it's. I mean, as long as it's unconditional, I can do what I want. I don't know. What do you say? Love one another. Basically, behave yourself, which we all do. Other than when somebody's coming over there and taking away something we want to do. And she says, I mean, it's almost like you're saying it's okay for that to happen to you. And out of that, find people are happy after suffering, probably putting up the biggest fight. The other people are really suffering. They want to stay home on a public support check. And then only certain people are in Europe. Let me see that. This is not unconditional. You're eating and then I'm working. And the answer is no. I'm sitting on down just like you doing bullshitting all day long like you do. Right? I mean, if you get the bullshit, why don't I get the bullshit? I mean, especially here, there's a freaking storytelling town. They don't know what they're talking about, just talking. I don't know why my smile is popping like this over here at 54 years old, but it does. That's 40 minutes enough bullshit, man. Yeah. I mean, right? I mean, he will save his life, will lose it. That's true. He will lose his life, will save it. So lose his life? Yeah, right. I'll agree with the conditions been put on him. I don't think you got a choice. Probably a man. Or if we know anything, what do women say? Was it about twice the size of your boyfriend? Well, that's it for you. What would it be? We don't have to talk about it.